السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. Peace of heart. Brothers and sisters, peace of heart. And when we refer to peace in this spelling, P-E-A-C-E, is a noble goal and dearly sought after, as well as a tremendous blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This phrase of peace of heart, literally openness of the chest, refer to one's chest being at ease and at peace, free of anything which troubles or tarnishes it, instead remaining cheerful throughout a life of good and plenty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He blesses one of His worshippers with this blessing by opening up his chest and making things easy for him. Then the beneficial aspects of both his spiritual and worldly life can become a reality, and his aims and goals can be attained. And that is because acts of worship will become easy for him, and acts of obedience will become simple for him. He finds himself able to attend to what will benefit him, and he becomes able to raise his family and his children well. On the other hand, when one's chest becomes constricted, brothers and sisters, then many of the good things in this life will become unattainable. he will find himself lacking both the power to do good deeds, as well as the motivation to undertake various types of righteous actions. Instead, he will continue moving from one worry to another worry, from one sadness to the next. So having this peace of heart, this inner peace, is the most significant factor in helping a worshipper to achieve his goals and to attain what will benefit him. That is why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded his prophet Musa alayhi salatu wa salam to go to the tyrant Fir'aun, may the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon him, in order to call him to the truth and to warn him of his grave consequences and his tyranny, Musa alayhi salatu wa salam, he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this tremendous dua. He asked him subhanahu wa ta'ala, قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي. O my Lord, open my chest and make this task of mine easy for me. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned his blessing on his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by saying, أَلَمْ نَشْرَحْ لَكَ صَدْرَكَ. Didn't we open your chest for you? That is a divinely granted blessing, brothers and sisters. A gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. For opening one's chest is one of the greatest causes of being guided, while tightness of one's chest is one of the causes of being astray. Just as opening one's chest is one of the greatest blessings, likewise constricting one's chest is one of the most severe punishments. It is only possible to achieve this, brothers and sisters, this most sought after goal, through giving importance to this religion of Al-Islam and through putting it into practice. Putting Al-Islam into practice. The more that the worshipper is committed to putting this religion of Al-Islam into practice and following whatever it entails, the greater share of that peace of heart, that inner peace, he will have as a result. Building on that, it is possible to boil down all of the factors which we will cover here today, brothers and sisters, which lead to inner peace, to two key points which build on one another. The first point is that peace of heart, inner peace, can only be attained by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his care for his slave. And the second point is that this blessing and gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only comes as a result of obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and following his divine guidance. These 2 points, brothers and sisters, encompass this entire topic and serve as its very foundation. For the hearts are in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He turns them however he wishes. They are subject to his management and under his power. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills to be, it is. And whatever he subhanahu wa ta'ala does not will, it is not. And this is as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in his book, فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَّعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Whomever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes to guide, he opens his chest to Al-Islam. Whomever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes to guide, he opens his chest to Al-Islam, meaning he opens his chest to the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the guidance of the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And whoever he wishes to misguide, he makes his chest tight and constricted as though he were climbing up into the sky. And he subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in his book, أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. Is he whose chest has been opened to Al-Islam, so that he is upon light from his Lord, like one whose chest has not been opened. So this inner peace, brothers and sisters, this peace of heart, this opening of the chest can only be attained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, enabling it to happen. Therefore, one ought to seek it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and through the path that he subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated and divinely revealed. So the believer should exert himself in supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sincerely turning to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection, that his chest would be open and his affairs would be made easy, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would decree that upon him to be from one of His joyful worshippers in both this life and in the hereafter. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from them. Ameen. After that, brothers and sisters, the believer should follow up supplicating and turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection by taking the means that lead to actualizing this tremendous aim and great objective. فقال الإمام ابن القيم رحمه الله تعالى أن حال العبد في القبر كحال القلب في صدري نعيما وعذابا وسجنا وانطلاقا. The great Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that the state of the slave in his grave is like the state of the heart in the chest. Either it is in bliss or in torment, or it is imprisoned or free. If one's chest is tight and constricted towards this religion of al-Islam and the guidance of his Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then his grave will be constricting for him. But if his chest is open to the religion of al-Islam and his heart is receptive to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then his grave will be expansive for him and it will be a source of pleasure and joy. There's a clear sign, brothers and sisters, clear signs and plain indications that one's chest has been opened, which will be apparent in the believer, whose results he will appreciate in both this life and in the next life. And these signs can be summarized into 3 key points. The first point is that the believer, the one, is oriented towards the eternal and everlasting hereafter. The second point is that one turns away from this passing and fleeting life, meaning he does not really care about this dunya. He is focused on his families and himself, their akhirah. And the third point is that one prepares for his death and that which will follow it. So if these 3 things are present in a worshipper's heart at all times, that is an indication that his chest has been opened and that he is going to find inner peace, the peace of heart. The great scholar Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that a sign of this is that one's chest has been opened to the level of al-Iman, the level of faith, that it is open and at peace with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command, that it frequently returns to remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trusting Him, loving Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, and looking forward to meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that in turns away from this life of deception. This is like what is mentioned in a well-known saying, when light enters one's heart, it expands and opens up. And one might ask, does this have a sign? And the answer to this is that turning away from this life of deception, turning away from one's focus, or turning one's focus to the eternal hereafter, and preparing one's death before it comes. On the other hand, if this dunya, this worldly life and concerns and other worries overruns one's heart more than his concern for the deen of al-Islam, his chest will become constricted in equal measure to how preoccupied he becomes with these things. This is the topic, brothers and sisters, today. And we'll complete the second half of this, inshallah ta'ala, in 2 weeks. How to find inner peace. How to find peace of heart. After having shown the importance of this topic and how much it is needed, we will now embark upon our main objective, which is mentioning the factors through which one can gain this peace of heart, this inner peace. It is considered to be the most comprehensive list regarding how to gain and achieve this praiseworthy goal. From Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he has a chapter entitled Factors of Opening the Chest and how the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam achieved this in the most perfect way. The first and most important factor, brothers and sisters, is singling out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and making one's devotion exclusively for Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Singling out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ibadah and worship, and making one's devotion exclusively for him is considered the greatest factor in gaining this peace of heart. And it is the very purpose for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the creation and brought them into existence to fulfill. This is from the statement of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, وَمَا خَلَقُتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I only created jinkind and mankind to worship me. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only created the created beings to single him out subhanahu wa ta'ala in worship and make their devotion exclusively for him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is to be done in a state of humility, a state of brokenness, a state of strength or weakness, a state of submissiveness, a state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, compliance with his instructions, and directing every single act of ibadah exclusively to him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, he says in his book, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said that the places of worship are exclusively for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do not call anyone alongside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he subhanahu wa ta'ala, he also says in his book, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ. And they were only commanded to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, making their devotion exclusively for him without deviation. So brothers and sisters, the more that a worshipper places importance on actualizing the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he pays attention to it, gives it its rights and its dues, and distances himself from anything that will contradict it or detract from it, such as shirk, a bid'ah, then the more complete level of an open chest and peace of heart, a tranquil soul, inner peace and joy in both this life and in the next life he will have. Al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that the greatest factor in opening up one's chest is the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The openness of one's chest will be in line with the completeness and the strength and the high level of the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in his book, أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. Is he whose chest has been opened to al-Islam, so that he is upon light from his Lord, like one whose chest that has not been opened. And he subhanahu wa ta'ala, he also says, as we previously mentioned, فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلام وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَّعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes to guide, he opens his chest to the guidance of al-Islam. And whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes to misguide, he makes his chest tight and constricted as though he were climbing up into the sky. So the guidance, brothers and sisters, and actualizing the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are some of the most significant factors in opening one's chest, while shirk and misguidance are some of the most significant factors for being tight-chested and deviated. The heart in man's chest was only created to single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for ibadah and serve him. So when the heart deviates from this sole purpose for which it was created, then it becomes unsettled and beset with worries, grief, and troubles at levels equal to how far his heart has strayed from singling out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ibadah and making one's devotion exclusively for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second factor on how to gain inner peace, this peace of heart, is the light which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala casts into the hearts of his worshippers. As we previously mentioned, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, he says in his book, أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. Is he whose chest has been opened to al-Islam, so that he is upon a light from his Lord, meaning such that he is upon the light that his Lord provided for him out of goodness and bounty. And that light, brothers and sisters, is al-Iman. That light is faith, al-Iman. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He broadens, He expands His chest and brings joy to His heart. But if this light is taken away, if this light is dimmed or removed or taken out of the slave's heart, it becomes tight, it becomes constricted, it becomes like the most constricting and oppressive prison, and the openness of the slave's heart is in line with a share of his light. An example of this, brothers and sisters, you're going through something, and your brother or your sister reminds you of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says regarding that situation, or a situation closely related to it. You feel the light of these words, you feel the nur from these words, and you see it. The bars of your imprisoned soul opens up and it accepts the words with gracefulness. However, on the other hand, you're going through something, and your brother or your sister, they remind you about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger says regarding your situation. If that light is dim or that light is removed, the heart is out of order. It does not want to hear what Allah and His Messenger says. You tell your brother to be quiet. Don't remind me. I don't want to be lectured. I don't want to be preached to. This is the deception of a shaitan. This is the deception of a shaitan, and this is why when we are going through things, anxiety, stress, depression, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he gave us a guide. He told us what to say. He told us who to turn to, which is He subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with doing this, the heart becomes open and it accepts the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His words and the words of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Al-Hafidh Ibn Rajab, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, a heart which the light of al-Iman has entered and which has been made open and expansive is at peace with the truth. A heart that is open is at peace with the truth, receptive to it and accepting of it, and it flees from falsehood, hates it, and will not ever accept falsehood. Allahu Akbar. This is the way of the light, this is the way of the heart that is at peace. That is why a worshipper should have such a great longing for this light of al-Iman, and hope that his Lord tabaraka wa ta'ala will make him from one of those whom He honors with this light of al-Iman out of His goodness and His bounty. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in His book, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانَ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمْ الكفر والفسوق والعصيان أولئك هم الراشدون فضلا من الله ونعمة والله عليم حكيم. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in His book, but Allah has made al-Iman dear to you and made it beautiful to your hearts, while making disbelief, wickedness, disobedience detestable to you. That is a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a ni'mah, a blessing, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all-knowing and all-wise. Ibadallah, the worshipper should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to renew the Iman in his heart so that he might increase his share of this light of al-Iman and brightness. For Al-Hakim Ibn Rajab, rahimahullah ta'ala, he narrated a hadith from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الإيمان لا يخلق في جوف أحدكم كما يخلق الثوب الخلق فاسألوا الله أن يجدد الإيمان في قلوبكم. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, al-Iman wears out in the core of an individual just like one's clothing wears out. So ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to renew the Iman in your hearts. How many times, brothers and sisters, we gain weight, we lose weight, we go to the tailor to make adjustments to our thiyab, our suits, we turn to the tailor for clothes or the changing of our clothes, or we throw out the clothes completely and we buy new clothes. This is like our Iman, brothers and sisters. We turn to Al-Khaliq, the Creator, Al-Musawwir, the best fashioner, the best tailor, the best designer, to fix our Iman just like we go to fix our clothing. Who need true religion jeans? Who need true religion clothing with a Buddha, with shirk on it, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given us the true religion genetic. He has already given us the true religion gene. Allahu Akbar. When his heart, the believer, believes, then his tongue gives voice to what his heart believes. It affirms it. It testifies that there's no deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Muhammad ibn Abdullah is the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then these things which the heart believes in are the truth. Then when his heart believes and his tongue testifies, his limbs follow with an act of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command, and they will act in accordance with that belief. They will discharge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights over him and regarding the obligatory duties, and stay away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram out of iman, an affirmation of what is in the heart and what the tongue has expressed. So if he does that, then he, insha'Allah ta'ala, is a true believer. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. As our topic today, for some who have came late, how to gain inner peace, how to gain peace of heart. And the third factor that we will mention, inshallah ta'ala, today is gaining beneficial knowledge. And whenever a worshipper increases in gaining religious knowledge that is based upon the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his peace of heart increases and his condition improves. Knowledge elevates the worshipper. Knowledge elevates the worshipper and increases his joy and success in both this life and in the next life. And it adds light and brightness to his path. This is from the statement of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, where he says in his book, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, Allah elevates those of you who believe and those who have been given knowledge by degrees. In addition to that, knowledge is a paradise which the student of knowledge lives in, a meadow in bloom, and a garden bearing fruit in which he can find joy, good company, repose, and happiness. In it, he can access the best fruits and all sorts of flowers. That is why we find in a number of works from scholars where they have entitled their books or written works in Islamic sciences in line with descriptions that they believe are fitting for this type of knowledge, such as Urud al-Uqala, the meadow of the intelligent, or Riyad al-Salihin, meadows of the righteous, or Road al-Basim, beaming meadows, and so on, with other names which point to these meanings which take hold in the heart of the scholar and student of knowledge regarding knowledge. It is enough of a virtue, brothers and sisters. It is enough of a virtue of beneficial knowledge that it can take the one who has it to the gardens of pleasure and to the gardens of paradise if he implements it. This is just as the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, "Man salaka tariqan yaltamisu fihi ilman sahala Allahu lahu bihi tariqan ila al-jannah." He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said in authentic hadith, whoever takes the path in pursuit of knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make his path to Jannah easy for him. And the fourth factor which we will cover in here inshaAllah ta'ala is continually turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and approaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a good way. This is another way we can gain that peace of heart. One of the causes of peace of heart is continually turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, approaching him in a good way and humbling oneself in ibadah and obedience. For worship and obedience are refreshing of the heart, a familiar friend of the soul, a pleasure on the eyes, and a joy of the chest. The great scholar Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, returning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trusting Him, loving Him with all of one's heart, approaching Him and taking enjoyment and worship in Him, there is nothing which brings more peace to one's heart than that. So much so that sometimes one could say, if I can experience this kind of feeling in Jannah, then that would be a good life for me. Take for example the salah, the prayer, how much pleasure of the eyes, refreshment of the mind, tranquility of the believer's heart and soul does it contain, such that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said in authentic hadith, Kum ya Bilal, farihna bis salah. Come, O Bilal, and give us a refreshment with the prayer. And it also comes in the authentic hadith. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Ju'ilat kurrata aini fi salah, that the pleasure of my eyes has been made in the prayer. While discussing the actions of the righteous people, Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, the first thing that would come to their minds when one of them would wake up from their sleep is to make wudu and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as instructed. Then after fulfilling that obligation, meaning Salat al-Fajr or Tahajjud, from the Sunnah of Tahajjud, in its proper time, they would occupy themselves with reciting the Quran and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until the sun rose. And then they pray Salat al-Duha. Next they would tend to whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made their source of provision. Then when the time for Salat al-Dhuhr arrived, they would hasten to purify themselves and strive to pray it in the first row of the Masjid. They would then fulfill their obligations as they had been commanded, giving full measure to its conditions, pillars, recommended acts, as well as the eternal dimensions, such as the presence of the heart, taking oneself to account, and their being present before their Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once they had finished their prayers, their hearts and their bodies and entire selves had been affected in a meaningful way that can be seen on their faces, their tongues and their limbs, and they find its fruits in their hearts, such as directing themselves towards the everlasting life and turning away from the life of deception and lessening their chasing after this dunya and fleeting enjoyments. As-salah, brothers and sisters, the prayer prohibits one against immorality and wrongdoing if you put your heart solely into salah, solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, causes him to love meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praying to Him, obedient to Him, and causes him to flee from anything that will cut him off from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that day. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the people of al-Islam, al-Iman. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barik ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa aqimus salah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واعتدلوا. Fill in the gaps, foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. We have a few announcements, brief announcements, inshallah. So coming soon, we have two programs that we're going to be introducing to the community. The first one will be a beginner's Arabic class. So this class is for people who have had limited exposure to the Arabic language. It's a beginner class, so it's going to be the alphabet Alif, Ba, Ta, Fatha, Dhamma, Kasra. If you're interested, please see Adam or any board member at the office, inshallah. Secondly, we're going to have at the Masjid what we're going to entitle a Dawah Town Hall meeting. So this meeting, the purpose of this is for us to fulfill our obligation to call people to Islam. What it will consist of basically is we'll have a presenter present Islam in a really clear and simple way. There'll be refreshments and there'll be a brochure. Our homework, because we all have homework for this one. Think of somebody that you have, a neighbor, a relative, a family member, a co-worker, or maybe even someone that you just met that you would like to call to Islam. We all have to start to do, but myself especially, have to do a better job of calling people to Islam if we're going to be here in this country, inshallah. So we come across people, everybody is in dire need of this deen. So this is going to be, and we're not all great da'is like myself, we're not great da'is or great callers to Islam. So this is going to help us to fulfill our obligation. I don't have a date for this, but it will be within the next 3 or 4 weeks, inshallah, and I'll announce the time. Also for the previous announcement about the Arabic class, stay tuned for announcements with the date. But if you're interested, please see Adam in the back or myself or anyone, inshallah. Also, don't forget to donate generously to the Masjid. And in line with that, a sister, brother, they had a house fire, a very bad house fire at the beginning of Ramadan. They're having a fish fry tomorrow from 2 to 6 p.m. And that's going to be, I think their establishment is called Bean Pie Heaven. It's at 1120 East 105th Street. So that's tomorrow between 2 and 6. If you can support them, it's $15 for a fish dinner or something like that, inshallah, if you can help out with that. And it's their business as well. Am I forgetting anything? Okay, Jazakallah khairan. We look forward to hearing from you. See you at the Dawah Town Hall meeting, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.